Sometimes it's good to be early, but our show starts at a specific time. You should remember that. Let's get started then, shall we?
Dillon, I don't give a what you think about a co-host and freshen up my show.
It might not be flashy, but sometimes you just gotta toss another person to make a statement.
My show's about the people's podcast. Everyone has a voice. I don't need a co-host. Go listen to one of the other 5,000 shows with a co-host because they don't have a mouth like the big guy.
Opie, are you a career killer with Tim Sabian, yourself, and many others?
Be myself. Never had real issues with those people. They just understood that I was a different bird. The rest of them, though, I'm like, oh, shut up. I'm paying your salary because the ratings are so good, so shut up.
Hey,
Live from
Somewhere.
it's
Dillon.
Good whatever to you, whenever you are watching this episode of Co-Host Auditions. This is my self-taped audition to be a co-host for a well-established channel who already has some monetizations. I am Dillon, and today we are looking at video essayist. I almost made it 30 seconds without my first verbal slip. 2 in a row. This is going to be a good one, folks. We have Kaz Rowe checking out pre-cinema, Magic Lantern, and things like that. The haunting world of pre-cinema moving pictures, she calls it. Kind of looks androgynous. She might be a they, but I'm going to go with she for now. See if that changes as we go through. And I think it's about time for an update of that intro. It cuts off right as we get to the good part. I need to get in contact with Mr. Blue Sky. I think Mr. Quint is another beloved chatter who could do a remix for me of some of those intros and just spiffy it up a bit. My thumbnail, too. The Bob Levy jacket worked for a while. I do need to spend a couple of bucks there and get a photo shoot done to update. Little updates. It's getting about time. I've done this, 9 months now? Thank you for the compliment, Annie. This bow tie, it's the best I could do on short notice. As we can see here, our host for the day, Kaz Rowe, she has some very archaic type of fancy clothes. The best I could do on this short notice, I could have put this episode at a different day, but I'm fascinated by the topic. As a big cinema fan, silent film and the like, not so much since computers took over to be practical effects I fucking love, and we are going to hear all about those practical effects from our new friend Kaz Rowe, another video essayist. I got to dress up all nice for 2 people in a row. We had our Legal Eagle buddy that I put on my Al Bundy shirt, tie, and jacket for. Well, not an Al Bundy jacket, but an Al Bundy shirt and tie. I've got to put those aside for when I want to look like Al Bundy. And today, broke out my bow tie for Kaz Rowe, looking all fancy over there.
Before the talkies, there were silent films. And before silent films, there were tiny short clips showing often completely benign things rendered magical by the...
So she can't show the very first moving picture. And I don't know if you are aware what the very first moving picture was, but it was naked ladies. Because when there was a new technology, guys are going right to naked ladies. It was voluptuous women in the nude outside that the very first moving pictures were of. But she's not going to show that because it's educational YouTube. Like a Birth of a Nation having to be mentioned. That's something that it's like, oh boy, we gotta talk about this Birth of a Nation film because it's just so historically significant, like those first naked ladies in the moving pictures.
By the newness of the medium. The first ever copyrighted film was an 1894 Edison kinetoscope film, only 5 seconds long, called Fred Ott's Sneeze. The kinetoscope itself was debuted at the 1890.
Did I hear wrong? Was it a sneeze before the naked ladies? The naked ladies, I know they definitely have a place in film history. The voluptuous nude women outside were I could have swore they were the first. Maybe the sneeze. It makes sense that the very first one was just the inventor of the project doing something on film, that being a sneeze. I don't think I've sneezed live on air yet. I've got a very unique sneeze. So you'll all point and laugh at my little cat sneezes.
93 World's Columbian Exposition, by the way. Check out my last video to learn more about that. Before that was 1888's Roundhay Garden Scene. And before that, in 1878, Edward Muybridge recorded The Horse in Motion, later projected with his zoopraxiscope. The kinetoscope...
Okay, that actually is a very famous horse. I should have remembered that one from Film 101.
And the zoopraxiscope are small pieces in a long history of pre-cinema tools, machines, toys, and art forms, long lost and largely forgotten ancestors of modern movies that allowed people centuries ago to experience with thrill, fear, and anger the magic of the moving image. Come learn with me back.
And I wonder if she's going to get to the great train robbery scene. Fans of Goodfellas, I never understood why they did a great train robbery ending with Joe Pesci shooting straight at the screen. That's something that literally scared the shit out of people and had them diving aside. That and a train running right towards the camera. It's a brand new technology, and that was a complete jump scare to audiences of this new genre of moving pictures, shooting directly at them or a train coming right at them. Oh boy, if there could have been hidden technology, that's what I'm using my time machine for, not to stop 9/11, because no one ever does that. No one ever stops 9/11 with their time machine. What would you do that for? You want to go back and make sure that your long-lost love gets penetrated before you completely ruin it, or go back in time and place hidden camera footage at these first filmings, these first screenings of Great Train Robbery Pow. Did Great Train Robbery do it twice? That would make sense if the Great Train Robbery did it twice, with the POW and with the train coming right at him.
Time, and let's take a look at the objects that built cinema. But first, let's hear a word from today's sponsor, Harry's. I've been a fan of Harry's products for years, like
and thank you
and with
for
Harry's
wearing a different shirt so we can easily skip ahead. And actually, thank you, Annie O'Ryan, for turning me on to, actually, they're not a sponsor, but thank you for turning me on to that certain little box that we get every month. A certain box that you get every month. Sounds like I'm ordering a monthly hooker, doesn't it?
Welcome to my court. Since the dawn of time, humans have dabbled in the raising of the dead.
Dabbled. Drink.
People claiming to be necromancers conjure the image of souls long past through tactics such as mirror manipulation and later the projection of images with light. Of course, light shows always made for good theater. Shadow puppetry has a long and fascinating history in Japanese,
and we actually saw a shadow puppeteer on a recent TikTok around the clock, and he was doing some fun little work with that. Actually, when I was an extra on Call of the Wild up in 1890s Alaska, it does make me sound like I am a crazy person, even more so when I tell people, back when I was a prospector in 1890s Alaska, and I watched the Magic Lantern, which was just, it wasn't a moving picture, but just the projected stills up against a wall. They had that installed in the bar there where Harrison Ford had a big punch out with I forget the other actor. I don't think he was a big named guy, but luckily I was prominently seen by the cameras. I don't know if you actually catch me, but I was in that fight scene with Harrison Ford and his stunt double and some other guy, and had to be there more than any other extra once they had me there a bunch of days. And we need all these people that were in that bar scene. So thank you for getting me like 24 days on that set, about 3 more than anyone else that we could count when we sat down and like, all right, how many days were you here? How many days were you here? I'm the winner.
Indian, Indonesian, and Greek culture, as well as historic Chinese and Ottoman puppetry, or the Nong in Thailand. These traditions were introduced to Europeans in the 17th century, leading to the marginal tradition of French and Italian shadow puppetry. Shadow shows are often believed to be the earliest form of human theater, with evidence being interpreted.
Shadow shows, once again, a shadow puppet type of thing. We are not talking about hanging with Mr. Cooper for those of you with dirty, filthy minds.
from Stone Age societies. This qualification of early pre-cinematic performance as somewhat supernatural in nature is a continuous through line. But before we move on, what even is pre-cinema anyway?
People are fans of the bow tie, and I did wear this bow tie once before in the Justin Van Ness episode of Co-Host Auditions, and that was just an awful, ugly outfit, because since I had a queer eye for the straight guy, I just came in as if it was a great outfit. And I had my 1970s car salesman jacket. It looks like something Doug Stanhope would wear on stage. I was very happy when I found it.
Stephen Herbert defines it in The History of Pre-Cinema Volume 3 as optical devices used for entertainment or instruction that proliferated before the introduction of cinema. These could be considered
That's a lot of fancy $2 words you got there.
exclusively quantify pre-cinema in relation to cinema itself. These objects and art forms are their own whole forms of media. But needless to say, oftentimes light and the manipulation of light is a common factor, and increasingly so over time.
The manipulation of light also helps you think that you are taking home a beauty at 2 a.m. That is some great manipulation of the light, and you're drunk enough to, when you get them in a little bit of better lighting, it just, and your dick is already hard, it just doesn't matter.
Before long, the camera obscura entered the playing field. If you watched The Green Knight starring Dev Patel, which I have a video on, you saw an example of the camera obscura.
Green Knight? I was hoping for the Green Ranger. Get Tommy in here.
The concept is fairly simple. A dark room with all of the windows obscured with a...
Oh boy, I've been to a room just like that before. There were little holes in each corner of the wall, and you had to pay $50 to get in. And there was a better one around the street for $100. There was probably a girl instead of a man in the one for $100. But I was running a little low, and I got to pretend it was a girl there in the middle of that wall.
The small hole in the coverings to create an aperture, allowing the light from outside to cast an image into the room. Flipped. It's hard to determine the original inventor of the camera obscura. One of the oldest mentions of it is by the Chinese philosopher Mozi in the 5th century.
Oh, you can tell by the different audio. She did this after the fact of like, ooh, I found a little bit of extra research after I took this video of myself.
Century BC. It was also mentioned in Greece by Aristotle and Euclid. In the Arab world, a 9th century philosopher and scientist named Al-Kindi also...
Good, it was a Euclid. It wasn't a Keter. SCP fans, we are safe with the Euclids. It is not a Keter.
Experimented with the camera obscura effects, but the first person to truly create a camera obscura as we know it today is 11th century scientist Ibn al-Haytham. Needless to say, it was a very old technique.
Doesn't the audio sound different there when they go to pictures? I think that's something with my mind. I've heard it with other creators as well, where it's definitely a continuous audio, but when they take away the video and just go to like a different frame, a different picture, it sounds like a different take. That was definitely the same take there.
And one that naturally was discovered as extremely useful for artists. Leonardo da Vinci frequently used it and wrote of it in his Codex Atlanticus, and many artists would later use a small box version of the camera obscura as a tool to trace models or landscapes in front of them with complete accuracy. As you can imagine, the
And I was slacking off on the SCP's Secret Snake. There are now classes that I didn't realize. They've gone back and edited the different classes of Thalmule, I believe, is one that is integral to the way we live life. That one, I stepped away, and then Thalmule, what the fuck is this SCP class?
The camera obscura gave people a fascination not only with the projected image, but with the idea of manifesting a scene where it isn't. Dioramas and peep shows, not the spicy kind, are good.
You were ahead of me. You were ahead of me. I was gonna reach for that low-hanging fruit of a gag, but you stopped me in my tracks.
Good examples of this, and unlike 2D art forms like painting, they allowed people to try to capture lifelike perspective of a scene. One later example that followed the advent of photography is the stereoscope, like this one. The slides are created by taking a photo with just two slightly different...
Oh, it looks like that little scope we had as a child to just flip through the different scenes of like nature or a Mickey cartoon frame by frame.
angles, so when placed here on the focus bar and viewed through the glasses, your eyes merge the two images and make it seem as though you were in the scene, as if it's almost 3D. Stereoscopes were the shit in Victorian
VR version 1.
and Edwardian eras, acting as exciting souvenirs for tourists, or silly theatrical stories, or even political propaganda. But few things held as much magic as a projected, lifelike image.
You say few things hold that much magic, but look at that. I'm taking my thumb off. How about that magic?
Especially the aptly named Magic Lantern.
All right. And I already mentioned this magic lantern, as I was witness to it in 1890s Alaska as a prospector. No further. If you missed me talking about that earlier, I'm just going to leave it there to sound like a crazy person.
All it takes is a bright light source, a box, a lens, and painted glass slides, and one of the earliest projectors was born. The full history of the magic lantern is tragically obscured by time for a number of reasons. For many years, it was seen largely as kind of unimportant by...
Oh, actually, it was a whorehouse. It was a saloon and a whorehouse in 1890s Alaska when I was a prospector, because I went upstairs with a lady in a scene. And, well, actually, you also had the ladies outside with the pushed up breasts like that. I have actually got to watch Call of the Wild one of these days. When the first trailers came out and they were talking about how great the cartoon dog is going to look, and the cartoon dog looked like fucking garbage in those, and there were massive reshoots as well. They called me back to be an extra for the massive reshoots for a few days, and they had like a new director sitting in the director's chair. They actually allowed the original director to be, you can watch as we take your vision and just completely fuck it up by what the studio mandated.
By cinema historians.
Reshoots are soul crushing.
And therefore evaded serious study until sometime in the 60s. Even in its own lifetime, in the early years of its conception, sometime around 1659, it was regarded by many as kinda sus. It was seen as a sort of magical conjuring instrument, a tool that was ephemeral and unpredictable. It could bring about strange images from the ether. It could even bring the image of the dead back to our mortal realm. In the 1660s, a traveling mathematician
back from the dead, and we all learned about this process in Scooby-Doo.
And named Thomas Walgenstein treated the wealthy in Paris, Rome, and Copenhagen to ghost shows from his Lantern of Fear, which was actually a relative of the original lantern developed by Dutch scientist Christian Huygens.
Okay, that was definitely two different takes. When she first went to that still picture, that was the same one, but she is obscuring it very well with these cutaways, with not looking too awful. But yeah, matching audio quality is a motherfucker.
And as soon as he brought the lantern into the world, he found himself promptly embarrassed by the hordes of people seeking his invention out for spooky purposes. Within another century, the lantern had become the premier form
So did the church kill him?
of entertainment by
Witchcraft?
professional lanternists. But the distrust of its powers of light and darkness persisted, in particular by those of a more religious inclination. Barbara Maria Stafford writes,
of course. I don't think she even mentioned that it was religious folks that got out their pitchforks and their torches. Witchcraft! How dare you have moving pictures and projected pictures? And we have a beloved chatter who has gotten death threats, Mr. Hackride, from, of course, they see a demon, and that absolutely is cause to make death threats, because that is what the Bible teaches you, is to go immediately to violence. From my teachings, it doesn't, but these people who are really into it, that's what they go to, so I'll take your word for it. Go to violence and shun everyone. That must be what the Bible's all about, even though it's the exact opposite from my dabblings. Dabble, drink.
In Devices of Wonder for the Getty Research Institute, magic lanterns and the enchanting slides and nebulous transparencies that they threw from afar extended and even accrued
That is a lot of words. Technology expanded, transcendent, throughout the linear perspective, discrete and separate units, static machinery, drawings, perception, drawing of the plasma. I think that word means ghost.
Realm of the immortals. One particularly famous lanternist, Johann Georg Schroepfer, made waves by experimenting with what the lantern could project on, a predecessor to the Phantasmagoria, which we'll get into in a second. Schroepfer projected images of the dead onto smoke, creating a horribly eerie and unsettling effect, even more horrifying than before. Schroepfer's shows were...
Oh yes, thank you for turning me on to the All the Tomorrows. I have it open in a PDF file, Hackride, and hopefully I get back to reading again. I get hot and cold on actually reading.
extremely clever. He would begin with introducing some friendly ghosts to ease people into the idea, no use sending them screaming out of the door right off the bat, and then he would bring in an explosive crescendo.
It is quite funny when you get death threats that look like they were written by a 3-year-old based on just the poor grammar and spelling. And these are supposed to be people leading people, all these pastors and such, and they can't write a death threat properly. We have got tools on the internet that helps you out. We've got Grammarly, we've got Word. It helps you get these death threats into a presentable type. Like, if you're going to make your death threat kind of unpresentable, just cut out letters individually from a newspaper and glue them onto a separate paper. If you're not going to worry about, well, you should still worry about spelling if you're going to do that method of death threat.
Of demons. Tragically, Schroepfer was indeed haunted by real demons of a sort. He announced that he would die and be resurrected in the Leipzig market square, and then he shot himself. Unfortunately, he did not appear again in the market square. And the history...
Well, that's the thing. We need hypersensitivity to that type of sense. I bet you that the people that did have that hypersensitivity, I've met 2 people who can sense spirits, and I don't believe that they are completely full of shit. I've met more that believe that they can sense otherworldly beings. I've met 2 of them who I absolutely believe, and I bet they could have seen them.
Of haunted magic lantern shows moved on. Other showmen would adopt Schroepfer's technique but add in other elements: real skulls, animal sound effects, claims of necromancy, exploding walking sticks, etc. In the 1780s, a Dutch magician and physician named Henri de Cromp wrote in La Magie Blanche dévoilée of a man...
A lot of $2 words there. That's a $2 fancy name as well. And Hackride also pointing out, with these shoddily thrown together death threats by these religious people, they have a book full of proper threats and proverbs, and yet they fall short, especially in the Old Testament. God is always threatening his followers.
A man's experience watching a horrifying show by a magician named Van Esten. In the middle of the shadows, he saw a little ray of light that lasted but an instant.
A little ray of light? Are they talking about Mr. DeVito's small pee-pee? And I'm sure that these are informative, but I am kind of just running past these walls of text that she has with us. So let's join halfway here. Fools who believe only in white magic, tremble, here is hell, and all the devils. Well, we don't have the devil here, but we do have a demon. So we're working our way up. Maybe the devil himself will appear one of these days. At once, he felt 2 or 3 seismic tremors. A heart attack, or like seismic tremors in the actual ground? Sounds like he lived in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles does sound like it's in the process of falling into the ocean. So nice while it lasted, California. Skeletons grinding teeth, shook their massive bones, rattled their arms while the brandishing flame torches, a pale light, blah, 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 blah. Thank you for that wall of text. Who do you think you are, Chris Chan or something?
Tremors. He heard a sound out of the ground like that of the sea. In the midst of thunder and lightning, he saw 3 skeletons which, grinding their teeth, shook the mass of their bones and...
There you go, adding a little bit of magic lantern to this. Nice. Now I'm up to listen to you talk about this nonsense.
Rattled their arms while brandishing flaming torches, whose pale light further heightened the horrors of the place. And thus these wonders made way for the terror and wonder of the Phantasmagoria. In the 1790s,
Phantasmagoria. Wasn't that a horror film in the 70s?
a man named Paul Philidor introduced
Oh, Phantasmagoria. It's literally ghost is in the name.
this new type of black art performance, which he was known for in the French and Russian courts. This guy is an interesting character. He's described by Mervyn Hurd in Phantasmagoria, The Secret Life of the Magic Lantern, as a worrisome picture of a double-eyed villain, a thief of ideas, a bully, a charlatan, a showman arrogant beyond measure. But for all that, he was a genuine innovator.
Well, he is kind of a charlatan. He's got this ghost machine going on. Thank you, Husey. Sounds like it's unanimous with today's beloved chatters that my tie does look fabulous when it is not paired with a 1970s car salesman Doug Stanhope jacket, as seen in the Justin Van Ness episode of Cohost Auditions. I wish Justin Van Ness was still doing videos online. He was not good at it at all. And I think he realized that. And his partner appeared to be his producer and the one pushing him to do YouTube videos. But thank you, honey, for the help. But no, we're not going to do this anymore.
Innovator. It was, after all, Philidor who coined the term phantasmagoria in the first place in 1792. Philidor used Schoepfer's techniques of smoke projection, but combined it with current events, summoning dead figures.
Oh, yeah, the smoke projection does make it extra creepy.
From the French Revolution, some of which...
And yeah, it does make it look like a spirit. They did that on Scooby-Doo, right? I don't remember there ever being yeah, they had to have the smoke machine in Scooby-Doo to get those spirits to look like they're actually doing stuff rather than projected on a wall.
Actually weren't even dead yet. As you can probably imagine, the French police weren't fans of this and his shows were promptly shut down, and Philidor was fortunate to escape with his head still on his shoulders. He would later go on to perform under a new name in the Lyceum Theatre, which was greatly successful, and also his show would later be revived in a greatly evolved form.
Because he made this illusion that there is ghosts and spirits, he had to change his fucking identity.
By Etienne Gaspard Robertson, who turned the shows into really kind of a 4D theater experience. Richard Krangle writes in Realms of Light, in the wing of the ancient broken-down Couvent des Capucines, he created a mock chapel. His audience, or victims, were not invited to turn up at the door, but were met.
Every chapel is a mock chapel. If anyone has heard of the Gnostic religion, where you were encouraged to find the Lord through your own means, rather than you must go through this man who you have to give, 10% of your earnings to every Sunday? What a fucking load of shit. And yeah, I'm going to get through this. Oh, there we go. She has some pictures. Now that we've got some pictures to go along with this theme of moving pictures, I'll listen to the rest of this wall of text.
Disorientation, autosuggestion, to construct a superlative, terrifying, in-your-face experience. Hilariously, even Robertson had his limits. Once when a spectator asked him to summon the ghost of the French King Louis XVI, he was like, see, I can't do that because I forgot the formula to summon him. The secret reason being that several years prior, Philidor had been arrested and imprisoned for summoning said king and showing him ascending to heaven.
Sounds like the Joseph Smith type of, okay, I can call upon the spirit again, and he will give me what is on the gold plates, but not the exact gold plates. They are different gold plates that I think I'm getting two things confounded there, of Joseph Smith giving an interpretation of what the spirit told him. No, I forgot how to summon that spell. I am lucky to be alive, going back to what Kaz Rowe is talking about, and the witchcraft that this early filmmaker was accused of and imprisoned for. Do you know how damn lucky I am to not be dead? I am out of the pre-film business.
And the post-revolutionary French were like, no, that guy's in hell for sure. Reasons why you gotta learn to read the room before performing for the French. As you can imagine, the increasing popularity of Phantasmagoria shows and their boundary pushing when it came to the occult was not exactly pleasing to either the authorities nor religious officials, and not even philosophers. Many believed the
Boy, religion just can't wait to stomp out new technology, can they? Like, film would not be a thing if they had stomped out these early moving pictures and Phantasmograph. And Hack Ride definitely has a problem with Joseph Smith, who should have been jailed right away because BYU is fucking garbage, all thanks to the Mormons settling right there.
The magic lantern to be theoretically antagonistic to the mind, allowing people to become fixated on the ephemeral and the elusive, transfixed even by what lies not in the realm of man. These things they believed could distract people from their moral path, open their minds to the influence of specters, or send people spiraling into mass hysteria. Barbara Maria Stafford continues, in his illustrious Dictionary of the English Language in 1755,
Kaz, moving pictures. If you have the moving pictures at the start, then I will listen to your wall of text the entire time. But when you just have this Chris Chan wall of text, no bueno. Pictures, yay. Words, boo. That's the whole point of movies. Husey, I love how this dizzy dame went to all this production effort and forgot to get a mic set. You dumb bitch.
Samuel Johnson likewise condemned the projective desire to communicate with what lies beyond common sense in ill-lit places, the fantastical impulse to be transported, to leave behind ordinary perceptions and enter a seamlessly constructed world just by looking at a cobbled-together image, dulls mental acuity. Even worse, having visual sensations in the absence of solid objects leads to ecstasy, madness, or
It leads to ecstasy, but I'm more of an LSD guy myself. So once it leads to LSD, I am more into it than it leading to ecstasy. And Hack Ride, you hit on something that I noticed every time I put on a tie and get on this live stream. It looks like I have no fucking neck. I don't know what I need to do to make it look like I have a neck. Maybe I just have a short neck, and that's why it just completely disappears when I put on a tie.
With fear. It was also transformed into a tool of colonialism. By the Victorian era, many Christians saw it as a useful tool for missionary work. When they traveled far away to convert people in Africa,
They see it as a tool for doggy work, because that's just as fun as missionary. Although I am kind of boring. I like seeing your beautiful face and those big titties bounce in missionary. And as fun as doggy style is, I don't get to see your beautiful face and those big titties. But if you're more along the lines of the I'm doing this, but I'm having trouble with the big old erection there, yeah, doggy style definitely helps a lot. We are just two entangled particles, aren't we, Secret Snake? He also has a disappearing short neck with ties. And we're going to take a quick time out. If you will just stick with me for a little bit of a shill segment where I ask you to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Usually we are live Monday through Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, regularly Tuesday through Thursday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. I have a date this Thursday, a couple of towns over, and I'm spending the whole day in that town. It's nicer than somewhere. So when I have an excuse to go there, I'm gonna have some fucking fun over in that funner town. And unfortunately, the 55-year-old who I had the date with over at the pinball bar, she did cancel. So that is unfortunate. But the weird broad over a couple of towns over, a double date, I've called it. In the morning, you go to work, and then in the evening, I can entertain myself in this town that is much more fun than somewhere. And I have gotten away from the shill segment. So thank you all for joining. Thank you for chatting. When this is over, if you give a little comment, that helps the algorithm get this out as well. So thank you all for checking me out on this different broadcast date. Different than the date on Thursday. And yes, she is really fucking weird. Weirdo looking for a weirdo. Usually I will not go 45 minutes away for a date, but I will go 90 minutes away for a weirdo looking for a weirdo who is into witchcraft type of stuff and artistic. So fingers crossed that we are the same type of weird. And I am actually pulling from the Electra playbook of going out to a state or two over to go get some tail. I didn't win a date with her, but we just scheduled it. So kind of out of your playbook, Electra, but just a little different.
Africa and Asia, they often brought the magic lantern with them, coupled with slides showing imagery from, well, the Bible. Other Europeans and Americans traveling for non-religious purposes still often brought lanterns with them as a way to impress the natives. By the 1820s, the new dissolving view lanterns were being mass-produced.
You're going through a lot of effort to impress the natives, and I bet the thumb trick would have worked just fine. A little trickery, a little parlor trick, I bet would have worked on the natives.
And had such advanced image quality that they were used in education. The magic lantern's theatrical history was discouraged, and people attempted to rebrand it as an enlightened, no pun intended, tool of reform, temperance, and faith. But that didn't stop people of a more gothic inclination from making
Hackride has a money-making opportunity to see me on a date weekly for $40 a month. I've actually had a similar idea with Ray DeVito. Who else can we rope into watch a date IRL streaming of a fucking oddball? Because I would pay for Ray DeVito going on a date. You would pay for me going on a date. This is a whole little money-making scheme. Get rich slow scheme. It sounds like we could start right here with IRL dates with fucking weird guys.
Phantasmagoric advancements to better scare people. Pepper's Ghost, a type of lantern show invented in the 1860s by John Henry Pepper, used a three-way lantern projection to give the illusion of an actor below the stage appearing as a specter on stage using lantern projection of light and two mirrors. Pepper's Ghost style projection is still used today, most famously
the Disney ride. I remember that at Disney's Haunted Mansion. Yeah, that scared the shit out of me, especially when you go. Well, actually, the one room where you're in the car that rotates and they have the ghost in the mirror. We had, I believe, 3 people in the car, or maybe I was sitting in the cart improperly, so the ghost was actually sitting on my lap rather than in between us. And that is a great ride, a great name, Hack Ride, dating do's and don'ts with Dillon. I am a big fan of alliteration.
In rides like the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland. As time drew on, exciting new advancements were made in moving image and projection machinery. Although well into the early years of cinema, the magic lantern remained common. It eventually became relegated to the realm of child's toys. And speaking of moving image toys, there were...
Here we go. Spurg Snake, Secret Snake actually knew the name of this. It's somewhere up there in the chat. Oh yeah, during my shill segment, I forgot to say Discord link there. What is this game with Annie link there? Maybe Arkham Knight this week. That's a big fucking game. But back to Kaz.
Were quite a few of those. World-renowned asshole Thomas Edison once wrote of his invention the...
Ooh, there's something there. I've got to find Kaz's Thomas Edison episode. We need to dig deeper into this distaste that Kaz has for Thomas Edison.
Kinetoscope. The idea...
Certainly there's a video you have all about him, right? I'm going to have to go to Kaz Rowe's page, find her Thomas Edison video, and that is going on the list for episode 2 with Kaz Rowe co-host Audition.
It occurred to me that it was possible to devise an instrument which should do for the eye what the phonograph does for the ear, and that by a combination of the two, all motion and sound could be recorded and reproduced simultaneously. This idea, the germ of which came from the little toy called the Zoetrope and the work of Muybridge, Marier, and others,
and now it's sold by Play School,
has now been accomplished so that every change of facial expression can be recorded and reproduced life-size. That little toy, the Zoetrope, was...
I actually like that wall of text better than the other one. That had a fun little font to go with it.
One of many similar moving image toys at the time, a few of which I have here. Side note, these are all from a website called Antiquus.
The Play School Viewmaster. Yeah, that escaped me. Do you have a Viewmaster there within arm's reach? Or is that just one of the random things that stuck with you? Like with me, the largest eyeball in the world belongs to the colossal squid. That's one of the things that just stuck with me, and for some reason, it will never enter my head. And on a trivia night where another team got credit for the giant squid, that is bullshit. The giant squid and the colossal squid are 2 different species. They found the colossal squid afterward, and they were like, we've already got a giant squid. What the fuck do we call this? Hackride thinks the show might be the dating don'ts and don'ts to be more true.
I'm pretty sure. I'll put a link down below if you want to buy any. We have the Tupi Fantoche, which is a close relative of the zoetrope, except that it uses mirrors rather than slits in paper to create the optical illusion.
Pretty.
We have the Phenakistoscope, a handheld version.
And don't use slits in paper for other things you use slits for. You'll get paper cuts in that sensitive area.
Which is really not easy to use, frankly. And also, you need a mirror to be able to use it, so. And there's the Praxinoscope, another close relative.
I can't use my mirror currently. It has this weird white substance on it, this white residue. I have no idea how it got there.
Of the zoetrope. Other less fancy handheld toys are ones you may have even played with yourself as a child. The popular Miriorama cards are stacks of cards that create a landscape in any combination, which is frankly endlessly entertaining to me, and also reminds me of those like old 90s flip books that let you dress up a character in a more animated sense. If you ever read Captain Underpants as a kid, you probably were really fascinated by the flip page animations, which may have inspired you to draw a flip book animation yourself. Personally, as goofy as these little things are, they did lead me to eventually want to learn how to animate later on. There is also, of course...
Did you get into animation in Southern California? Because every animator that I know grew to fucking hate animation because it's a shitty industry, the way they treat their animators.
The Thaumatrope, a circle-shaped piece of paper with two images like a coin that, when spun around by the strings, gives the impression of animated movement. All of these are just so magical, and many of these toys even persisted long past the advent of film and modern cinema. So it's no wonder that the magical nature of these cinematic toys meant that people's tendency to become fixated on the supernatural never actually went away. In fact, the obsession with the occult and ghosts has a surprising...
Are we going to talk about Poltergeist now? The film that Steven Spielberg hijacked? He was the producer, and another guy directed it, but Steven Spielberg, according to the behind the scenes, he was the real director. He was like, sit down, boy. I got this now.
Surprising amount to do with the advent of cinema itself. After all, the beginnings of the film industry came about right smack dab in the middle of several significant late Victorian topics: the invention of radio and the X-ray, spiritualism, and psychic science. Murray Leader writes in The Modern Supernatural and the Beginnings of Cinema, the 100 years prior to cinema's debut saw a major reconfiguration.
Come on, moving pictures, Kaz.
Of the supernatural. It was modernized and scientificized, and by 1895, the year of cinema's public debut, the process was complete. Magicians referred to their tricks as experiments. Spiritualism promoted itself as a scientific religion for a new rational
And now spiritualism is a bunch of hippie mumbo jumbo.
Era. And
I do buy into hippie mumbo jumbo.
Psychical researchers saw their grandest project as finding scientific evidence for the human.
Spiritualism, something to it. Religion, fucking stories. Fucking fantasy stories that you're taking, and like they teach you how to live. It's not... They didn't actually live, any of these fucking people. If they did, it's a fictionalized version of someone who lived. Fucking frustrates the ever-living shit out of me, actual religious
human soul. I talked about this
I'm just
more
gonna keep
extensively
muttering.
in my
Take it
video
over.
on the history of ghost hunting, if you're interested, but essentially the environment was perfectly primed to cycle right back around to very similar mindsets as those surrounding the magic lantern over 2 centuries prior. The new medium of cinema surely can be used to channel spirits from beyond the grave, or at the very least, render
This spirit sucks. Change the channel.
the meaning of death in general forever altered. For all human time, the closest a human image came to immortality was being drawn or painted.
The closest a human image came is now in virtual reality.
Or having their words written down. Then the advent of the camera made permanent exact human image snapshots of real time made physical. Then, film brought motion into a strange permanence, especially eerie in an era when recorded sound, too, was so new. A haunting experience in that for the very first time, a person long dead could now still be seen and heard. One French reporter in 1895 wrote, "When these
That just reminded me of the shitty TV show Revolution with J.J. Abrams. There is just so much garbage that J.J. Abrams released. Like an EMP went off and there was no power in the earth and everyone had to walk anywhere because anytime there's a post-apocalypse, everyone forgets bicycles ever exist. And there was this woman walking around with her cell phone with her daughter's voice, her dead daughter's voice and a dead voicemail, and power came back on for just a moment. And somehow this phone still magically has power and she's able to fuck you and your forced emotion, JJ. You fooled us for a while, Mr. Abrams. I thought you had talent for a little while, but you did not surround yourself with enough creative, talented people to keep that facade going. No, you got too full of yourself, thought you could do everything, and you did Star Trek Into Darkness, which just, you took off the mask in Star Trek Into Darkness and just showed the entire world that you are a hack fraud on the level of Red Letter Media, below the level of Red Letter Media hack fraudery.
These cameras are made available to the public when everyone can photograph their dear ones, no longer in a motionless form, but in their movements, their activity, their familiar gestures. With words on their lips, death will have ceased to be absolute. Today, with a camera in our hands at all times, all of us have attained a tiny piece of immortality. Until someday in the long distant, or maybe not so distant future, when our technology no longer functions and all of our...
That's why we need to make actual physical pictures instead of keeping them on a hard drive, so we can be some type of immortal forever and ever.
Current ephemera has decayed.
Until we can suck out the souls of younger people, that's the closest we're going to get to being immortal. But it's coming. We're going to be able to suck those souls out of the young and get our life. Oh, and jellyfish. Jellyfish fucking figured it out, and they don't even need to suck the soul out of their young. They just go through another puberty once they get so old. This being elderly thing fucking sucks. Let's just go through puberty again and be young again. Nicely done, jellyfish.
Beyond recognition. At least until then, you nor I won't ever truly be gone. We'll exist in the magic lantern of the World Wide Web. Little slides filed away somewhere, waiting to be illuminated once again. Thank you for learning with me about the fantastical moving images of yesteryear. Here's the menace who has made filming very hard for me today. Truth be told, I've been sitting on these toys for over a year waiting to make this video, so I hope you enjoyed it. So until next time, wash thy hands, wear thy mask, and don't summon any French monarchs at a lantern show.
Here, and we have a little bit of credits that she's giving here, a little bit of where all those came from, and a nice little silent film there. Was this made in 2020, the way she's talking about the mask? Nope, 3 weeks ago. So, yeah, you sound like a Los Angelian with those, with that mask up and wash your hand type talk in 2024. Here and somewhere, they've had enough with that fucking nonsense. They've stopped washing their hands to a point that it's questionable of if you deal with something that someone touched. And we have a few TikToks from the silent film era. That is the related content I pulled from TikTok to talk about from the pre-film, the beta of film. Now we have the early years of cinema. Let's see. This first one is there's the name of the uploader, Nitrate Diva, something like that, and it is a Harold Lloyd short. We have 25 seconds of Harold Lloyd showing us how to hide from the landlady from Safety Last. That is a well-constructed place to be able to hold all that weight. Come on, let's get out of here. We're safe from the landlady for another day. Everyone was just absolutely poor. And then, oh yeah, the Great Depression. I remember now. But this was the Roaring 20s. So they were even absolutely poor and destitute before everyone was poor and destitute. So Charlie Chaplin, silent comedy from 1970. So this is one of his shorts. This user, Sarah blah, 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 Jasmine, she did not credit exactly which Charlie Chaplin short that this is from, as he is running away. Very Little Rascals-esque. The tramp got into a lot of trouble and would be running away from authorities and large men all the time. Run away from those large men. He is the opposite of Piper Perry, who runs straight to the group of large men. And unfortunately, like our Harold Lloyd clip, the original piano music did not survive. This here sounds a bit too modern. We need to really ugly up this sounding piano to sound correctly. It sounds too nice. And he doesn't even need to put the candle back to get this wall to move. I don't know why it's so fun, the fact that he's not looking around anymore, but that is a fun visual gag. Got him. Stuck now. Oh, shit. You got two large men following you. Call Piper Perry in. She'll take care of him. Oh, and that guy. He was with Charlie Chaplin a lot. I'm pretty sure that's the same big fat guy from the Gold Rush. And locked in place. A little kick to the butt. I think that was Charlie Chaplin's finishing move. Like Hulk Hogan's leg drop, the kick to the butt. He is done for. And that is how Charlie Chaplin got out of that mess. So that was it for our clips and our main part of the show. One more segment that we usually have. A nice little cleavage there for you of our lady clown of the day, who is Snickersnee. I think Snickersnee changed her name. I have seen her before, but not under the name Snickersnee. I'm pretty sure that I saw her, and she's got a new name, Miss Snickersnee. Oh, Moe's eye poke. That was very much. Actually, Roddy Piper took the Moe. Why can't I think of his last name? Howard. It took the Moe Howard eye poke. So that did make its way into wrestling, where the Charlie Chaplin kick in the butt did not. It wasn't a finishing move for Roddy Piper, but Moe, it took out the jobbers. Like if Moe was going up against a main eventer, the poke in the eye wouldn't finish the match, but just some ham and egger, the Moe's eye poke would absolutely finish the match, Isaac Walmart. And now let's hear from Snickersnee.
People always saying that I wear too much makeup and I look like a fucking clown. What the fuck do you think I'm supposed to look like? Natural?
And Snickersnee does dress up like a horror clown, so I am a big fan of that. She probably has an OnlyFans account, judging by how naked she gets, and she does do some burlesque both as a clown and as a human, because clowns aren't human, apparently, according to that sentence that just came out of my mouth. And I would like to see something coming out of your mouth, too. Hey-o, Snickersnee, what else do you have for us?
It's Friday. We made it a whole nother week without slapping a bitch. And if that don't make you want to shake your ass, then I don't know what will.
It is Monday. So hopefully you will be able to play that at the end of the week after you do not slap a bitch. And Snickersnee, definitely not for everyone. This is a thick lady. I am in favor of thick ladies, but Carl Hamburger definitely is not. He is into little skinny ladies like April Imholt, and I'm into April Imholt too, but her in that bikini, she needs to pump some iron or eat some beef to get me to... in fact, that little skinniness dropped her down to a Minnesota 8 for me instead of a Minnesota 9, because I like some type of meat. Over on the Spurgtopia Discord, I believe it was Sam V that dropped in the "Where's the Beef" lady in response to April Imholt in a bikini. And actually, I do need to find that episode, they found me. And I'm curious of how much they watched and what Aaron Imholt thought of me. And we will definitely be returning to Steel Toe Morning Show in about a month or so. That is all for today's episode. I do enjoy the video essayists. The video essayists are my favorite to go through. So thank you, Kaz Rowe, for being our host today. We have TikTok around the clock tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Eastern from Valentine's Day. We had a little backlog. I'm getting a little bit of ahead with the newest screen recordings. I think it might be good for 2 episodes. The ones after the Valentine's Day. But yeah, a lot of weird fucking stuff going on TikTok Live on Valentine's Day. Well, duh, it's TikTok Live. Chatting with beloved chatters, we'll have KB with us on Wednesday this week. So thank you, KB, for joining with Chatting with Beloved Chatters. That sounded like I said that wrong. Thank you for joining with Chatting with Beloved Chatters. Yep, that's all for today. That was the show. Thank you all for joining, and we'll be back to Tuesday through Thursday next week, Monday through Wednesday this week, so I can go chase some tail in a town that's a bit farish away from here. And we'll look into that hack ride idea of the dating don'ts and don'ts with Dillon. We'll see if that has legs. I know it does with Ray DeVito. I want to see that myself. Thank you all for joining. Now feel free to go away.
Well, it looks like that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for going on this adventure with me. It's fun being with friends. I'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye for now.
Toodaloo. Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao. Ding dao day.
Places all. All join hands, circle left. Now circle right and listen to me. LS, MFT. Elementary corners like swinging on a gate. To right, dear honey, with the right left date. Grand right and left, around you go. Lucky strike means fine tobacco. Meet your honey and give her a whirl. All swing around with the little girl. Smoke 'em, then you'll see. LS, MFT. Promenade and don't you fall. Promenade around the hall. Lucky strike is first again with tobacco men. Promenade straight down the pike. It's time right now for a lucky strike. Yes, for smoking that you're bound to like, you just can't beat a lucky strike.